All right, so we are going to look at Thomas Jefferson's presidency. He is our third president, and we're going to see kind of some key things about him and some of the major events that happened. We're only going to look at two major events and a couple of other small things, but that's all we're going to be covering today. Now, Thomas Jefferson, sorry, I'm going to raise this up, is going to be president following John Adams. He's going to be our third president, and he begins this very successful presidency. He's going to be elected 2 terms, and he's going to be representing the Democratic Republicans, who are going to hold the presidents 3, 4, and 5. So it's going to be a very powerful political party. Prior to becoming president, he had a few things he was known for, being the writer of the Declaration of Independence in July 4, 1776. He's going to be the governor of Virginia for a while. He's going to be an ambassador to France during the Revolution, basically going through and helping bring their resources into America. And he's going to also be our first Secretary of State and our second vice president ever. Now, 2 major events that happened. The first one is the first Supreme Court case, which is Marbury versus Madison. And it's going to be our very first Supreme Court case and establishes the principle of judicial review. Now, what happens is, on Adams' final night as president, he made many midnight appointments to different positions in the government. Basically, he saw any jobs that needed to be filled out, and he went through and said, "You're hired, you're hired, you're hired," because they were loyal to him and the Federalist Party versus the Democratic Republicans and Jefferson. So what happens is William Marbury, who is supposed to be assigned the job of Justice of the Peace in Washington, D.C., goes through and he does not receive his appointment. James Madison receives it on his desk the first day he shows up to work as Secretary of State, and he refuses to pass out that paperwork because now it's too late, and it should have been Jefferson's job to go through and assign. Well, Marbury knew that he had that position lined up, and so he sued Thomas Jefferson and James Madison to get that job. Well, Marbury, when he sues, takes it directly to the Supreme Court instead of working through the federal court system as you should have. And when it gets to the top, Supreme Court Justice John Marshall, who you need to remember, John Marshall, refused the case, saying that the Supreme Court was only for extremely important cases, especially those that affected the Constitution. And this sets up the principle known as judicial review, and we're going to live with that still today. The second thing that he's involved with is the Louisiana Purchase. Now, in 1803, France is fighting a war with England and most of the rest of Europe for supremacy. And France is becoming a little cash-strapped. This is during the emperorship of old Napoleon, the little dude. And he is going through and needing money. And as he needs the money, he's going to sell the middle part of America, present-day America, to the United States for $15 million. What it does is it doubles the size of America. And Jefferson's just going to jump on it and pay for it. He does not get permission from Congress, which he should have, and he's going to go through and say that he has this power under the Constitution, therefore he's going to do it. Basically, everybody loved the deal that he made. I mean, it was only like 50 cents per acre, and he did a great job with that, so people were willing to look the other way. When he wanted to send some people to explore it, he sent out Lewis and Clark to explore this territory. And they were supposed to map out the territory and identify various Native American groups and find the Northwest Passage that was fabled to exist there. As they were going through, they found a 15-year-old named Sacagawea, and she helped guide them all the way over to present-day Pacific Ocean. Now, a couple other events that happened under Jefferson's tenure as president is we have this Embargo Act of 1807. This Embargo Act is very important. It actually sets up the issues that happened with Madison that we're going to talk about next. But it's going to ban trade between America and France or England. Mainly, France and England were impressing our sailors, basically tell them they have to work for France or England's Navy now, and they can never go home, or they're shot and thrown overboard. So it causes America's economy the downfall, but it also starts industrializing the economy at the same time. It just took a little time for it to be successful. And so America goes through a depression for a little bit economically, but after the War of 1812, the economy starts taking off again. The second part is the Barbary Wars. This is a series of wars between United States and the countries of North Africa, and it's fighting over safe passage for ships to get along the southern coasts of Europe. And so it's going to be a very, very important set of wars that that's really all we're going to talk about. It'd be good for you to go to research later. So make sure you finish your notes, and we'll get to make sure you take your quiz and your other activities.